question is for Henry Cejudo. Previously, you were linked to a bout with Jose Aldo. That was talked about. Obviously, a lot of things have changed in terms of fights, events. How did this one come together? How was Dominick Cruz presented to you?
First of all, Dominick was my first choice since the beginning. I wanted to fight him. Since the beginning, I thought it was a great storyline. We're both from Arizona. He's a former champ. I beat the number one contender, Marlon Moraes. I mean, there was really not a concrete number one contender after I beat Marlon Moraes. And my original plan was to fight him, but then I saw the fact that Jose Aldo, did a good job with Marlon Moraes, who was the number one contender. And I decided to go with Aldo, but I always told Dominick, Dominick, stay on deck because, if anything happens, man, you're the guy that I want next. And it just turned out to be that Jose Aldo couldn't get a visa, and that allowed Dominick Cruz to squeeze back in. But he was always part of the plan in the first place. And now we're going to scrap. Now we're going to fight.
In terms of the rankings, he's probably, not the legitimate number one contender. So was the reason that you preferred him just because of his legendary status, his name, and that he's one of the greatest to ever fight at that weight class?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. I'm on a legacy rampage, and I feel like Dominick is probably one of the guys that I can remember that made a big name, that kind of paved the road for a lot of us little guys. But that's another reason why I want to. That's another reason why I want to choose. I want to continue to keep adding big names to my hit list, and to continue this legacy rampage.
What do you think is going to happen with 125 now? I mean, you've got some key guys that are not in the division anymore, such as yourself, and then you've got, Ray Borg, for example, one of the top guys who continuously fails to meet that weight requirement. It kind of seems like it's dwindling. What do you think is going to happen there this year?
Well, I mean, like I said, I did my job, man. I fought to the title. I beat Demetrius. I defended my title. Right now, my sole objective is Dominick Cruz on May 9th. I'm not even thinking about what's going to happen with the flyweight division. They got to wake up and smell a coffee. They got to go out there. They got the UFC too. They got to start, really putting time into the flyweights and really recruiting some of the best guys in the world, because the flyweight division is one of the toughest, best divisions in the UFC, pound for pound. Everybody's fast, everybody's technical, and I think that's what makes that flyweight division good. But as of now, my sole focus is on May 9th.
Thank you. I have one more, and it's for both of you guys. So starting with you, Henry, I know you have your own gym in Phoenix. Is that where you got ready for your training camp? And also, does the coronavirus quarantine hinder your training in any way? I would imagine not, because you have your own gym and you can use it privately, right?
Yeah, no, not at all, man. If anything, I really don't know the difference between quarantine, the COVID-19 quarantine, and me and my training camp. I'm a professional. I train each and every day. I do my recovery. I mean, I do everything right, or I try to do everything right. So this whole quarantine, I think by the time the U.S. comes back together, I'm just not going to know the difference.
And what about you, Dominick? What was the training camp like for you? This happens to be an unprecedented situation that you're in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been rehabbing my shoulder for the past few months anyway, so realistically, I was already training really hard to go back to atrophy and everything else that I needed to do. So I was already training hard. And then Jeremy Stevens had a fight coming up with Calvin Kattar, or Qatar, and I was helping him train for that about 2 weeks before this card got slated. So I was already training pretty hard with Jeremy, sparring him and just helping him prepare, doing the same workouts he was doing to make sure he wasn't having to train alone. So that really, that was like actually led right into this camp. So I technically had about a 6-week camp for this one, which happened to be plenty enough to be in shape for 5 rounds.
What do you think it's going to be like fighting with no audience? That's got to be weird, right?
Kind of. Well, I mean, I think the silence might be the weird part, realistically. But if you fight in Japan, if you see a lot, like there's a lot of people there, but they don't make a lot of noise. So it could be like that. also when you train in the gym a lot, I don't have a lot of people in the gym, especially now in the quarantine as you're training. We've all been having to train with minimal people, like 4 to 6 people max in the gym, so that nobody's getting contaminated. And it's been pretty silent in there. So I think it's gonna resemble training in the gym, and also similar to the Ultimate Fighter, except we had all the competitors on the teams at the Ultimate Fighter. It was still somewhat kind of eerily quiet. So there's a few different scenarios that I've been in where it's going to resemble this, I believe.
All right, thank you so much, guys.
Once again, that is *1 to ask a question. Our next question comes from Damon Martin with MMAfighting.com.
Hey guys, first question for Henry. Henry, obviously at this point, you're all about legacy fights. You talked about that with the Aldo fight. You talked about it with other fights. Where does Dominick Cruz rank in terms of legacy, in terms of your legacy? How big is this fight for you for that, considering most people consider him the greatest bantamweight of all time?
Well, I think every fight that you have is your most important fight, right? So, like I said, man, I wouldn't put him above Demetrius Johnson, even though he has a victory over him. But I'd put him up. I put him up in top 3. But my last fight is always my greatest fight, and I do respect Dominick's skills. I do know that he has. I do know that he's tricky, and I plan for that. But I think the difference between me and everybody else is I don't ever fight everybody the same. I'm that type of guy that can make adjustments, and you guys have seen that during the fight. So the way I would rank them is every fight's the greatest fight for me, the greatest fight that I could be.
Henry, there's a lot to be said about ring rust in this sport, but we have precedent with Dominick when he came back off a long layoff and he beat Shaquem Mizukaki. He came back off another long layoff and beat TJ Dillashaw. So he's proven that ring rust doesn't necessarily affect him. But what did you expect, coming into this fight also, a 3-year-long layoff? Are you looking for those kind of things, or do you have to expect Dominick is going to be the best he's ever been?
Oh, do I? Yeah, that's what I expect. I expect the best Cruz. I expect the reason why Dominick has been successful is because of his grit. Because it is, I will say this is because of his mind, but I also see a lot of flaws in there too, technically. So I know he's a tough challenger. He's been around the sport for a very long time, analyzing fights and team fights like that. It makes you look smart. It gives you a good MMA IQ. But I just think he's going up against a dude that's just hungrier, stronger, that's in his prime, and I'm just on a rampage, man. It's like when I first started wrestling. I wasn't doing as great in the beginning into the international stage, but once I got my feet wet, man, I shocked the world. And it's no difference with wrestling and mixed martial arts.
And Henry, obviously, you're not the matchmaker. You're going to be the guy to sign the fighter whoever they put in front of you. And I know your focus is 100% on Dominick Cruz, but I know before this you were going to fight Jose Aldo. What do you say to the guys like Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling and Corey Sandhagen who all want a chance at your title, but there's not a direct line to you right now. If you get through Dominick, you might fight Aldo next. TJ Dillashaw comes back early next year. Like, what do you say to the other contenders in the division?
I'm going to tell them to wait for their king. Wait for the king to tell them to bend the knee. Aljamain Sterling got knocked out by the guy that I knocked out. Wait in line. And then Peter Yan, he needs to learn better English. And he absolutely sucks. And you can't be a 41-year-old and expect to get a title shot. That's just ridiculous. I'd rather fight somebody that hasn't fought in 4 years like as in Dominick. If you choose those two.
And a couple questions for Dominick. Obviously, Dominick, you've already achieved so much in your career, doing the things you've done and proving people wrong again and again, coming back off injuries and doing the amazing things. But where does this fight rank in terms of your legacy, considering what you've had to go through to get back here and knowing what Henry represents as obviously 2-division champion, Olympic gold medalist, all these things you've achieved? Where does this fight rank for you in your career?
Well, I mean, it ranks up there as another history-making fight for me, but I really look at this a lot different than belts and all the things that we have. It's more about how you can make a difference in these times when you have a platform. So I look at this as a time where I can make a huge difference. Like, what's the value of champions belts or Olympic gold medals when there's 33 million Americans that just filed for unemployment benefits? They can't see their families since mid-March. 2,417 Americans died in the United States. There's no vaccine for COVID-19 coming, probably no end in sight. So I've been in the question of what's the value of belts or even Olympic gold medals unless we can use it to make a difference in the lives and the service of humanity, essentially, really. The leader that made a difference for me in this way is Muhammad Ali. He was willing to give up the belt, possibly go to prison for 5 years to stand for what he saw as world peace. So that put me in the question of what's my purpose in all of my accomplishments here? And realistically, it's to make a difference and stand for everybody who thinks that they're not a champion and let them know that regardless of what everybody says, regardless of what everybody's credentials are, none of that matters if you believe and if you want it and you have a bigger purpose than yourself, just what you have, and just holding up your belts to everybody and saying, I'm better than you because I have this thing. How about, every single person out there gets to do that if they choose it, whenever they want. And I'm going to stand for that after a 3-year layoff again, and everybody says ring rust exists, and it actually doesn't. It's all in your head.
Well, to that point, Dominick, my last question will be that you've proven it time and time again how you've been able to come back from these injuries and look good and look great in these fights. What is it do you feel like separates you from other guys? Because it is true, we have seen guys struggle off layoffs and time off and things like that. How have you been able to do that multiple times?
Well, I mean, it's about making sure that you prepare yourself the right way. I live this life to train. So like when this is all said and done, I'm going to be in this kind of shape still. I enjoy training. It's like a livelihood for me. It's just how I like to live my life, is in shape, feeling good, and training hard. And really, transformation is a public event, so I'm constantly trying to transform in my life. And this is the place to do it, is on a stage in front of, the first sports event to ever happen. This is the stage where transformation happens. Every athlete on this card is putting themselves in a vulnerable position where they can be beaten or win. And what's the point? What's the pleasure in winning if there's no thought of losing? So all this comes together to create a lot of fire, and I'm excited for it.
Awesome, thanks, guys.
Well, you better sign for unemployment checks. I'm taking your ass out.
Yeah, cool story, Henry.
Dominique, you know I'm the real deal. You know I'm coming. You ain't getting past 2 rounds.
Yeah, okay. You're short. I know that. And I know you're going to have a hard time finding me, little man.
And you're going to remember that. You're going to remember that, princess.
Okay. We'll see, man. When you're in there missing, you're going to find out real quick the difference and the amount of rounds I got in there over you. I got hours in there over you, little man. You're a wrestler. I'm about to prove that and expose you real quick.
You just try not to break it now, princess. You just make sure to make it on May 9th.
Yeah, you're coming off the shoulder surgery too, smart guy. So how are you any more tough than me? You're just coming back from surgery after a year. Have you ever done that? Nope. I've done it several times and I've proved it.
I'm the bantamweight champion of the world, and I am the greatest combat athlete of all time.
We'll see about that. Yeah, well, there you go, flaunting your credentials again, but none of those mean anything because how do you make a difference for anybody but yourself? I had the belt for 10 years. You
only fought 2 times in 10 years, Dominick.
I fought many times in 10 years, and you know what? I have more title fights than you as well. So remember that too. All you got to do is look at the numbers, Henry. You're catching up still, bro. You can win 3 more title fights and still be catching up.
Well, you prove it to me, Princess, on May 9th, because on May 9th, like I said before, I'm serving goat.
I don't have anything to prove. I'm just going to beat it out of you. You're going to embarrass yourself trying to fight me.
I hope so, Princess. That's what you said last time against Cody.
Yep, Cody's not you, is he? I have no power in the past. I have power right here, right now.
I'm another animal on top of that, Dominick. I'm a whole nother
What happened with you? What happened with you and Benavidez? What happened with you, Demetrius Johnson? You lost to both of them. I haven't lost to you.
That was 4 years ago. That was 4 years ago.
You lost.
That was 4 years ago.
It was 3 years ago I lost. So there you go. Here you go. If you want to talk about past, there you go for you. I got some proof in why I'm going to smash you.
What? I came back and I beat one of the greatest of all time.
And I'm about to come back and smash just a little turd who thinks he's better than he is. You're a 25er, and I'm going to prove it.
You can try, princess. You can try. Try not to break it now, Dominic.
We've heard that already. You keep saying the same thing, nerd.
Exactly, because you're brittle and you break everything.
Did you just come off of the surgery? Does that make you brittle? You're an idiot. Listen to yourself.
I'm strong. I'm cock strong.
Lauren, we can move on to the next question.
Our next question comes from
Kevin. I love you, Dominic.
Hey guys, thank you for that. Tough act to follow. My question would be for Dominic. The first thing, Dominic, obviously the Dillashaw fight was a huge win for you in your career, and I know it was an emotional victory. If you were to win this title on Saturday night, do you think it would surpass it, given that you've gone through this a second time? Would it surpass the significance of your win over TJ?
I think the win over TJ will be more because TJ Dillashaw is a true bantamweight, and Henry's still a 25er. So realistically, this isn't going to be as tough as a fight as TJ. I know that. The physical accomplishment of getting your body back and doing everything that you've done, having had to do it a second or a third time, will that add to it at all? Though, even if you don't respect Henry the same way you respected TJ, the fact that you're getting your body back to that kind of level, will that have any added significance? Well, I never said I didn't respect Henry. I said that it was going to be not as tough as a fight as it was against a true bantamweight in TJ Dillashaw. So don't twist my words, please. I do respect what Henry's done as a yeah, you did. I do respect what Henry's done as a martial artist. You can't take that away. But I do believe that TJ is a true 135er and that Henry is a true 125er, and he'll go back down to his division after I beat him. And after you had your fight with Cody, you gave one of the most amazing speeches I thought that I've ever heard an athlete give in the UFC, especially after a defeat. And I wonder, was that it? When you look back on it, is that kind of the emotions you're feeling right now as you talked about, giving back, and you talked about how many people have lost their jobs? Is that sort of the same emotion that you're feeling as you felt then after that Cody fight, in terms of the way you approach that speech and the way you try to approach this fight? Yeah, 100%. In that time, everybody in their life has lost something. And I think that was, as a fighter, as a champion who hadn't lost in so long, to be in that vulnerable position and to be able to, just take full responsibility. I think it's bigger than me just making a bunch of excuses. It's about how can you, come up with something to give to the world with the platform that we have, to actually say something that matters rather than just basically vomiting on the mic. I mean, this is a platform we have. A lot of people listen to us. A lot of people like to hear what we have to say. And I think it's important that we use the platform for a bigger purpose. And that's what this is.
You know what, Dominic, you should try out for Miss Universe. You sound like Miss Universe.
That's what this fight represents. It represents something bigger than just me.
All across the world, princess.
Like I said,
Dom, if I can.
Go ahead.
Dom, if I could just follow up with one other question then. I know when an athlete loses, when you guys lose a fight, you want to get back and get in there and kind of get it. You've had to sit there with that loss for 3 years and haven't had the ability to get back and, not avenge it against Cody, but just beat somebody else. Has that bothered you? Has that been difficult to deal with? That, the last time you were coming back, you were coming off victories. This time you have that, that red L sitting on your record for 3 years. Is that tough to deal with mentally?
No, I don't. I don't really look at it that way. I look at it as the past. Like, how many times have you made a bad article that you weren't happy with? I'm sure many, and it wasn't perfect. But do you sit and look at that bad article every day when you try to do this interview with me, or do you move on in this present moment and try to ask the best questions you can now? That's what I'm doing. I'm focused on the now, where my power is at, and I'm in very good shape. I feel like money right now. I'm heavy. I'm strong. I'm fast, and I'm lean, and I'm ready to go. So that's what I'm focused on. You don't focus on past stuff. There's no control there. What's the point of that?
Cool. Thank you. And then I have one question for Triple C, please. Henry, obviously Dominick was, set the standard by which this division is judged by his wins over Demetrius and so many other fighters, Uriah Faber and whatnot over the year. What do you think you have to do to, for yourself to surpass him when people look back and they want to talk about you in this division like that? Do you feel it's a number of wins, or do you feel it's just particular names, beating the Aldos and those kind of people? Is that what it will take?
Yeah, no. Like, first of all, I know I'm going to beat Dominick. I truly, sincerely believe that and know that. My plan is not to beat him. My plan is to stop this dude. Is to stop everybody that's in front of me. Like, I'm not out there no more to just win by decision. I'm out there to put people. I'm out there to put people out. So the more I continue to keep doing that, the more people understand that, hey man, this dude is there's just no denying.
So in the past, you went to win by decision.
They don't have.
You wanted to win by.
They don't have.
You wanted to win by decision.
MMA don't have a Michael Jordan.
That's what you sound like.
They don't have a Michael Jordan of MMA. And I'm looking to do that.
I'm the Michael Jordan of 135.
I'm knocking people out, and that's it. And Dominick happens to be in my way, and I'm getting ready to execute it.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Bryce Miller with the San Diego Tribune.
Hey, Dominick. More curious what what are your important roots and connections with San Diego and why that place has become important to you, and then I'll have a quick follow-up.
Well, I was born in San Diego, but I was raised in Tucson, Arizona. So I was from 2 years old until I was 21, I was raised in Tucson in that school system and in that lifestyle. But I've been here ever since I was 21 to start my professional mixed martial arts career. So it's a mixture. I've become a true professional here in mixed martial arts, but in Tucson is where I figured out who I was, growing up. It's where I found my roots, had my toughness, my grit, my tenacity. It comes from Tucson. And so putting the two together has just made me, I feel complete as a man.
What's just more in general, as the world watches sporting events that are being canceled or postponed, it's so rare to have something that's live. You guys are kind of at the front end of that, trendsetters, or at least checking that terrain out first. Do you have any health concerns related to the virus being in a contact sport at this point?
I don't. I mean, realistically, anybody can contract this virus. I think that's partially the point, is understanding that anybody on earth can get this, but you can't just freeze up when you see something that's scary. You got to just kind of take the precautions, be as safe as possible, but live your life. That's what I'm doing.
That's a lot. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Aaron Bronstetter with TSN.
Hey guys, this one's for Dominick. Dom, the circumstances for getting the title shot were a bit different. Obviously, relatively short notice, government restrictions, a great opportunity. But were those circumstances a turn off at all for accepting this fight?
No, not at all.
How were you able to train adequately for it under these circumstances? I don't know if you're a year-round, ready to go type guy, or if there were anything you had to do to ramp it up a little bit in the previous weeks.
Yeah, I had to ramp it up, definitely. You go from not fighting to fighting a title fight, so yeah, you got to ramp it up. But I've been training with Jeremy Stevens, who I know is bigger, stronger than anybody in my division. So training with him and mixing it up with other small guys at the same time, I've got the speed of small guys that I get to work with and the size of big guys mixed together, and sparring with them round by round really pieces together a good camp. And I've had good training partners, and I got a good coach, and I've been here before many times. I've got tons of title fights, tons of time in that octagon, so it's just another day doing what I enjoy doing.
All right, for Henry, you look at your last three wins: Demetrius, TJ Dillashaw, Marcellus. If you win this weekend, would you still want to face Jose Aldo next? Because the win streak of Demetrius, TJ, Moraes, Dominick Cruz, and Aldo could potentially be greatest win streak ever, really, in terms of resume.
Go back and look at my resume.
I told Uncle Dana, I said, I ain't leaving. After I beat up Dominique, I said, I'm going to be stomping on Jose Baldo's toes next. And then after that, Alexander Volkanovski, that overgrown midget, he's next.
See, that's the best he can do with his platform. You hear that? It's so useless. Sorry for you guys.
Exactly, Dominic. Exactly.
Come on,
you
man.
will be part of that.
Better, bro. You're better. You're better than the
I'm
worst.
trying to be Miss Universe,
Silly.
princess. I'm here
silly,
for
man.
purpose. I'm here. You better sign up for unemployment.
Why are you here? Why are you doing this?
Why am I here? Because I am here.
What's your
I
purpose
am here to
in
be
this?
the greatest of all time. That's why, Dominic.
And then what?
Knock your ass out. That's why.
And then
knock
what?
you out.
And then what? Then when it's all over and you're retired. Then when you're all retired, you're just gonna have to
keep knocking everybody out. That's it, Dominic. Dude, you're like I swear to you, man. You're like dude. You should try out for a pageant. I swear to you. Because your actions prove nothing.
All right, and finally, Dominic, a win this weekend, it would make it twice that you come back from a major injury to win a title. That's never happened in MMA, and I don't know if it's ever really happened in pro sports of any kind. Do you ever step back and think about how incredible an accomplishment that would be and the gravity of this?
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. It's like, anybody who thinks that stuff's that difficult, it equals up to anything that's ever been done, period, in sports. So that's how you become, legendary in this thing. I've already done legendary things in the division, in the sport. I got more than half my fights are title fights alone. And so just with, the murderer's row that I've faced, Benavidez, Uriah Faber, TJ Dillashaw, Demetrius Johnson, I mean, the list goes on. With all these people that I've beaten, I cleaned out the division. I was ranked number 2 behind only the number 1 pound-for-pound man for a year, Demetrius Johnson, and I'd beaten him. So I've pretty much been pound-for-pound the best at one time in this sport. And, I've done everything you can do. And to come out after the layoff when nobody really gives you a shot and then just beat up at 125er, it's going to be fun.